In 2008, a team of scientists took blood from a group of Dutch pensioners and found a famine in it. A famine that had ended more than 60 years earlier, before a single one of them was old enough to remember it. To understand how this is possible, you have to go back to the winter they were born. In the winter of 1944, in the occupied Netherlands, people were eating tulip bulbs. The Germans had cut off food supply to the western cities. The rations fell to about 500 calories a day. In some weeks, 400. People boiled sugar beets and tulip bulbs into a kind of soup, and they ate that, and it was not enough. By the time the country was liberated the following May, around 22,000 people had starved to death. And among the people going hungry that winter were women who were pregnant. 60 years on, in the blood of the children they were carrying, the hunger was still there. Now I want to be careful here. The famine had not changed their genes. Their DNA was exactly the DNA they were born with. Nothing had been rewritten. What had changed was something sitting on top of it. Your DNA is covered in tiny chemical tags. They do not alter the code. They decide how loudly each part of it gets read. And it tags to a gene, and it tends to go quiet. Strip the tags away, and it speaks up. This is not exotic. It is how you have a liver at all. Every cell in your body carries the same DNA. A liver cell and a brain cell differ because different pages are being read. So the useful way to think about it is this. Your genome is the score. What your body is doing with it is the performance. Which brings us back to the Dutch. The researchers found 311 people who had been in the womb during that famine. And then they did the clever thing. They also found their brothers and sisters. Same parents and same house, even same upbringing, just not conceived during the hunger. So it's the same family with one difference, whether the famine reached them before they were born. On a gene called IGF-2, which helps govern growth, the famine-exposed siblings had fewer of those chemical tags 6 decades later, still measurably different from their own brothers and sisters. Something that had happened before they were born was still being read differently in their cells right now, 60 years on. If starvation can leave a mark like that, what else can it leave? And given what I do for a living, what about the opposite of starvation? What about sitting still and paying attention? Does that leave anything at all in the cells? A team in Wisconsin went looking, and the experiment they ran is beautifully simple. They took 17 experienced meditators and gave them 1 day. Not 8 weeks, just 1 day, about 8 hours of intensive practice. They also took 17 people with no meditation experience at all and put them in the same building for the same day and had them read, walk about, just do quiet leisure things. They took the blood from everyone before and after. Then they read the chemical tagging across the whole genome. By the end of that single day, the meditators had 61 sites where the tagging had measurably changed. And those sites were not random. They clustered in genes involved in immune function and in aging. The control group, in the same building on the same day with the same meals, had none of those improvements. Just 1 day. The same group had already found the companion result. After a day of practice, meditators showed lower levels in 2 genes that drive inflammation, called RIPK2 and COX2. And here's the detail I like most. The people whose inflammatory genes quietened the most were also the people whose stress hormone recovered fastest when the researchers put them under pressure afterwards. So it was not just a number on the screen. It tracked with how their bodies handled being stressed. Now, one lab finding something interesting is just a story. It's not full evidence. So in 2017, a team gathered every study they could find that had measured gene activity before and after meditation, yoga, tai chi, or breathwork. 18 studies, 846 people. That was 11 years of work. And a pattern came out of it that was consistent enough to name. There is a master switch in your cells called NF-kappa B, and it is the one stress pulls. Under sustained pressure, it turns up a whole family of inflammatory genes, and that is a large part of how chronic stress damages the body. Across those 18 studies, mind-body practice was associated with turning that switch down, the opposite direction to stress. That is the finding I would most want people to know, and it is the one that gets the least attention because it's not as photogenic as a brain scan, and it holds up under a genuinely hard test. Researchers took 190 lonely older adults and split them in two. Half did an 8-week mindfulness course. The other half did a program matched exactly for hours, group contact, and instructor attention, but the exercise and nutrition instead of meditation. That strips out everything except the practice itself, and it is about as unforgiving a comparison as this field runs. The mindfulness group still showed reduced inflammatory gene activity. A separate review of 20 randomized trials, more than 1,600 people reached the same conclusion in careful language. The effects on inflammation, immune function, and biological aging are, and I'm quoting, replicated, yet tentative. Replicated. That word is doing a lot of work here, and it's a good word to have. Which brings us to this year, and to the most striking result yet. In 2026, researchers took 17 long-term meditators to a monastery in northern Spain and left them there for a month. 8 to 9 hours of practice a day, vegetarian food, and no talking. They took the blood before and after, and this time they looked at something specific, a panel of genes associated with Alzheimer's disease. The tagging on several of these genes shifted over the month, and on 2 of them, ADAM10 and HOXA3, it shifted in the opposite direction to the way it moves in Alzheimer's disease. A month of sitting still, and the chemical marks on Alzheimer's linked genes moved the other way. And now the honest part, because I'd rather you heard it from me. That study is 17 people. The authors call it a proof of concept themselves. Those 17 also ate differently, they slept differently, and they didn't speak for a whole month. So we can't yet say it was just the meditation on its own. Nobody in that study was shown to have avoided Alzheimer's. What moved was the marker, and it moved in a promising direction. This is a young field. Most of the studies are small, and most of them used far more practice than any of us are going to do. What we have is a consistent signal pointing the same way across a lot of different labs and a great deal of work still to come. I find that genuinely exciting. This is what a field looks like, just before it gets properly mapped. Let me separate 2 things, because they get blurred constantly, and the distinction is good news either way. The gene studies tell us about the machinery They say your biology is listening, that it responds to how you live, and that it responds faster than anyone expected, all within a single day. The other body of evidence is about how you actually feel, and it's bigger, older, and much more settled. 47 clinical trials, around 3,500 people, all with proper comparison groups, real reductions in anxiety, in symptoms of depression, and in pain. And those trials did not use 9-hour days in the monastery. They used ordinary 8-week courses, about 20 minutes or so each day, at home, by people with jobs. So the honest, and I think rather wonderful summary is this. The thing you can actually do from your kitchen has good evidence that it will help how you feel. Scientists are steadily working out the machinery, and everything they find keeps pointing the same way. The people in that Dutch winter had no say in what got written on them. It was a war and a blockade and a famine. They were not even born yet. You're most likely in a very different position. You get to choose what most of your days are like, and your body, it turns out, is paying close attention. Every study here involved doing something small, repeatedly, for weeks. Not one heroic afternoon, just a daily thing, sustained. I run a free 31-day mindfulness challenge. One short practice a day for a month. The link is below. Just do it daily and find out what effect it has on you.